Hello, my name is Xavier. I'm CEO of Espace Mobilité, a consultancy based in Brussels. This first virtual City Talk is about autonomous mobility and self-driving technologies. Stay tuned because today we have two amazing speakers. Cédric Dupont is director at Waymo and a pioneer in self-driving technologies. And Emmanuel Van Damme is the president of the executive committee of the Federal Transport Authority in Belgium. So let's dive into risk, opportunities, challenges of the autonomous mobility sector. Hi Cédric, it's a pleasure to have you here today. It's been a while, you haven't been here in Louvain-la-Neuve in the south of Belgium. So you studied here 25 years ago, electromechanical engineering, so we're really happy to have you with us this morning.
Appreciate it, thanks Xavier.
So my first question about autonomous mobility and self-driving technology, this is the key topic for today. What were actually the key challenges Waymo has faced in developing those self-driving technologies?
Well, the first challenge everyone thinks about is the technical challenge. Right? Our mission is to build the world's most trusted driver, which means a driver that is able to handle all the situation that normal everyday driving presents to the vehicle. And when you talk about trusted driving, you obviously think immediately about safety. So that is maybe the foremost challenge, how to ensure that autonomous vehicles are safe, and how to prove to ourselves that is the case and that we're able to drive the tens of millions of miles that we've driven so far. So the business processes and the methodologies behind the safety case, what we call the Waymo safety case, are one of the key core competences that Waymo has developed. And then finally, the last challenge is we're building a product that's entirely new. So at the beginning, it wasn't clear that people would be willing to enter a vehicle that is completely empty. Right? So you call a vehicle, it shows up, it's empty. Would you get in and drive away with it? So over time, we learn all these little differences that make autonomous vehicles special and that require little adjustments into our product offering.
Yes, I can imagine. So actually, Waymo is a pioneer. I mean, it's been backed by Google from the very beginning. It was a Google X project, for example. But what were actually the significant milestones that you could achieve at Waymo?
So without starting all the way at the beginning, I think I would mention the big milestone of driving on a public road in fully autonomous mode for the first time. That happened in 2015 in Austin, Texas, in a vehicle that we had purpose-built from scratch. So it's a vehicle with no steering wheel, and that was really the achievement that showed that it may be possible to turn this into a commercial viable
with
business.
That blind guy, the very popular blind person.
That's right. Steve Mahon was the first passenger, and he's legally blind. So the year after that, Waymo became an independent company. So in a sense, that is the beginning of Waymo, and then the milestones really accelerated. So in 2020, we offered the first public fully autonomous service in Phoenix, and after that San Francisco, and now in parts of LA. So today I think the milestones are more of the commercial nature, so deploying this as a real service for the public.
So you're director at Waymo and you're in charge of the perception layer, and we will have a closer look at how these technologies work. In this video, actually, we see the different components that are being used for making a self-driving car. We have those different components like the cameras. These are really the eyes of the car. They see what a human would see, people, vehicles, the infrastructure. It can also work at night, in fog, in rain, and so on. Then we have the radars. It will give the distance and the speed of the other items, the other elements around the car. And then we have the third layer, which are the lidars, making a kind of a 3D environment about what's around the vehicle, and it can be fast moving, and so it gives a perfect ID, a perfect image of the surrounding environment. And all of this is actually being computed in the trunk of the car, because due to hacking issues, it has to be really on board of the car. Can you tell us a bit more about those technological advancements and those sensors?
Yeah, certainly. So, as you mentioned, the primary sensing modalities are the three you mentioned, so LiDAR, radar, camera. They are interesting to combine because they each have strengths that combine to make a very robust full system. So, for instance, the LiDAR system is an active sensor. So it has its own, projects its own electromagnetic wave, and so it works extremely well at night. Something like a camera has, at least in theory, infinite range, right? You can see the sun. The sun is very far away, and so each of these sensors works together, and fusing their strength allows us to build the most robust possible system,
and to cover all possible happenings. So some other companies, they've decided not to rely on all those technologies. So you believe you need those three layers and many others, like sound. I mean, if you have a fire truck coming, you need also to be able to hear it. And so you believe this is the minimum stack that you need for a self-driving car.
So you're correct. We also use audio and sound. That's one of the secondary sensing modalities we use for things like sirens. So I don't know about, so our assessment is that system makes for a more robust sensing system. And since we're focused on building the world's most trusted driver, it needs to be also the safest and the most reliable. And so we take advantage of using the strength of these modalities to build the best possible sensing system. By giving up on one of these modalities, we believe that the system becomes less robust. Maybe in the future, technology will be at a level where it may not be necessary to rely on all of these modalities, but today we believe that provides for the absolute best.
As you mentioned, it's a question of trust. It's a kind of no-failure business. You cannot fail in this, and you need to rely on those technologies. We see quite a lot of videos on the web showing one side the performance of the Waymo car, but at the same time we see also incidents. In this case, we see a typical situation that you would encounter in a city like San Francisco or Los Angeles. You need to drive back because you have a truck that needs to pass and so on. So we have a lot of performance. We have other issues when we could clearly see that the Waymo car could avoid major incidents. Look at this fatal collision that has been avoided by the Waymo car. It's quite impressive. We will see a bit more in slow motion. This is impressive, and this is absolutely necessary for this. But we also see other situations when actually, in this case, we see the Waymo car taking the opposite direction, going the wrong, is it the wrong direction? Or in this case, at night, we see that the Waymo car is on the other lane as well, but maybe there's a reason. And my question is not about those typical cases, because you encounter hundreds of them in a month, but how do you cooperate with the authorities to analyze this and to cope with this? But maybe just to focus on this, the car is not alone. At some moment, actually, you have a kind of tele-assistant. It's not a person driving the car, but just given the right message with a binary questions like this. Okay, the road is not blocked, or it can also help it finding the good path in a tricky situation. In this case, again, we see that the humans can still give some hints for the cars and allow them to find the right way. How would you comment this, and how are you working closely with the authorities to analyze it mostly afterwards?
Yeah. So as you said, we have agreed with regulatory bodies on the types of data that we would be reporting, either regularly, just on a normal frequency, or event-based. So if there's a specific event that we're reporting, and so these regulatory bodies consist of experts in their domains, right? So they can be expert in automotive safety, or urban planning, or mobility policy. So these conversations are very rich because this is new for everyone.
It is.
And the ongoing conversation allows us to improve our product and make sure that we maximize the benefit to the community, which access to a flexible mobility service, and at the same time minimize the impact, the potential negative impact, like congestion by a car that is stuck. Yeah, it's an ongoing conversation. It's going to continue, but every one of these situations, we benefit from the fact that we have all the context behind it, right? So we can all sit around the table and replay exactly what happened and explain it.
Replay. And
right.
This is new in the transport sector, because you said trust requires transparency, but if you look at human-driven vehicles, we don't have the feedback, we don't have the images of what happened. In this case, we can replay everything and really try to see, because a Waymo car is around 300 meters away, everything is being recorded, and this is so you believe really we need to prepare the ground from the public bodies as well. They need to prepare this exchange of information, this regulation, but based on facts and not on ideas.
That's right, and that's like I said, these are professionals, and so they're able to analyze the situation fully with the full context, and then decide, well, was there a way to behave better, or is this working as intended? And it's a conversation that has started as soon as we started driving autonomously on public roads, and over the years it's
getting better.
Yeah, it's given us enormous feedback on our product and the ability to improve, and that collaboration with the regulator is absolutely essential in this new industry.
Let's talk now about the acceptability of the technology, and actually what are the current deployments, commercial deployments of the Waymo cars in the US?
Yeah, so to be super clear, we currently operate in what we call rider-only mode. That is a fully autonomous mode with no human driver behind the wheel in 3 markets, so San Francisco, Phoenix, and parts of LA. In San Francisco and Phoenix, we are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And in Phoenix, we're also partnering it with Uber, meaning while using the Uber app, a fraction of the time you may be paired or matched with a Waymo vehicle to pick you up. And we also started doing Uber Eats deliveries with a few restaurants. That's the entirety of our commercial, fully paid operation today.
So expanding to deliveries as well, so just not moving people but also moving goods, or at least food and those kind of things. And what can you say, how has the public responded to these robotaxis? I mean, is it a success somehow? You have a lot of people taking your cars?
Yeah, so every week we have tens of thousands of people using our service to take trips, and we have star ratings, just like others. By far, our most popular rating is 5 stars, so there's some indication that we're doing something right. And we've recently announced that we drive more than 50,000 trips a week. Overall. And yeah, I think in terms of acceptability, it's been a process, right? So we talked about us interacting with regulators, but also interacting with riders and community advocates. Yeah, so I mean, there's plenty of organizations caring about how mobility and access to mobility works in cities. You can obviously think of people who currently have less access to the options that exist today. Maybe people with certain disabilities, or people who don't find it safe to rely on other types of transportation. And so, yeah, these conversations are a feedback channel that allows us again to improve our service. And we believe that by making our service available to the biggest spectrum of users, we improve it for everyone.
But these are the riders. What about the non-riders? I mean, like cyclists, I've seen that some are advocating in favor of Waymo. Is it the case? I mean, are you really working with those associations and so on?
Right, so there's very exciting data that we have published at the end of last year. It's a statistical analysis over about 12 million kilometers that shows that the number of injury-causing accidents that we would have expected from this type of driving decreased by a factor of 6 to 7x, meaning the Waymo car statistically is 6 to 7 times more less likely to cause or be involved, I should say, because it's not just
not causing but being involved in an accident.
Yeah, and of course, these accidents are often involve vulnerable road users, like cyclists, like pedestrians, and so if you look at the data as an advocate for bicycle safety, you should be welcoming these vehicles on the
So
road.
self-driving technologies are not just for moving people, but they can also help cities or regions to move to more sustainable transport options globally, because they're changing the way vehicles are moving around and decreasing the number of accidents. So let's take a closer look at the Waymo car now. This is the 5th generation of the Waymo car. It's a partnership with Jaguar. It's a Jaguar I-Pace fully electric vehicle. You already working with other manufacturers, and the idea is to bring the technology for other use cases and other OEMs and so on. Can you describe a bit this partnership, those partnerships that you want to build with the sector?
Right. So Waymo is a technology company, right? So we're focused on the driving technology, and we are always collaborating with partners to rely on their competence. In this case, automotive manufacturers. So before Jaguar, we worked with Chrysler on a previous generation, and every generation of vehicle teaches us something, right? So this vehicle right now is our workhorse. Yes. That's the vehicle that again delivers tens of thousands of rides every week.
But you're working on the next generation.
That's right, and the next generation will be focusing on the passenger experience even more. So it's very spacious inside. It's optimized for ingress and egress, so how to get in and get out of the car really easily. Optimized for sharing. It has a flat floor, which allows you to scoot in, scoot out, and make room for people that you're traveling with. So every generation allows us to learn and improve for the next generation.
And you would like to remove the steering wheel, the braking pedals, because actually many people say that when they first enter a robotaxi, they're really impressed by the fact that the steering wheel is turning by itself. But in the next generation, it might be removed, so it will maybe facilitate the acceptability. What do you think?
Yeah, so you're right that the steering wheel moving it by itself apparently it makes for a good video production value. But yes, it takes away a seat in the vehicle, right? So we would like to make that seat available so that even more people can be passengers, and this creates a regulatory challenge, right? So today, steering wheels, pedals, and these types of controls are mandatory for vehicles, and that's something that we're working with regulators on, right? How to push a framework forward that will allow us to bring cars without these actuators onto the public roads. Yeah, so of course we're still learning. This is a new industry and a new product, so nobody really knows what the ideal vehicle will look like 5 years, 10 years from now. But we're learning at every step of the way. So what we already know is that we need to build a passenger-centric vehicle as opposed to a driver-centric vehicle, which is typically what automotive manufacturers do today.
Yeah, people could sit in front of each other, so it would be something completely different, like public transport somehow, but at a smaller scale.
Yeah, and again, these are all questions. Is that the right configuration? Maybe it isn't. Maybe it is. And manufacturers obviously are really interested in partnering with us to get ready for that change. I mean, whoever is going to build the perfect vehicle for this type of industry will be very successful, because there's an ability to deploy large fleets, centrally purchased. This is an interesting business for manufacturers.
So in the future we'll look something different than the Jaguar I-Pace. We'll keep it for some years, but we will have different types of vehicles, and so we'll see what comes next with the future of autonomous mobility.
That's right.
Welcome, Emmanuel. It's a pleasure to have you here on this first virtual city talk. So you're familiar with ICE Louvain, you studied here,
Yes,
and I hope you're happy to be back here. So it's a pleasure to have you, and actually would like to know about your impressions. You took part in a study tour last summer in California, and you met Cedric as well. So what would you say about that experimentation you had last summer?
Yes, I had the great and the fantastic opportunity to go to San Francisco last year for this study trip. I must admit that I hesitated to go with you.
Why?
Why? Because I'm not exactly a seasoned traveler, and the trip was quite long. But what convinced me to come with you was three things. First one, the richness of the delegation. Second one, the program, and almost the principle, seeing to believing.
And you're mentioning something very important, that seeing is believing. And do you think that transport authorities and operators in Europe are aware of this rapid development?
Absolutely. European authorities are aware. We can see that in several projects and initiatives was taken in the past in Europe, in Belgium, in France, in Oslo, but it's quite slower than United States of China.
It looks like more pilot projects in Europe, whereas we have large-scale deployments over there.
Yes, there is no large-scale deployment in Europe because of the complexity of the legal framework. And also because lack certainly of harmonization and standardization in the different regulation in Europe.
Yes, exactly. And what's your opinion, Cedric, on this comparison between Europe? I mean, you are European, living for many years in the US. Would it be possible to have this in Europe as well?
So I think there's a lot of innovative actors and energy in Europe, but as Emmanuel said, the big missing item is the legal framework. It's very expensive to deploy a fleet, and you would only do the type of investment if it's grounded on a solid legal framework. These are years of preparation and planning. And therefore, that's something that is a weakness right now in Europe compared to Asia or the United States.
And how do you see that this technology could actually transform the mobility landscape? Because, okay, we have those robotaxis, but in the long term planning, how can we adapt to this big revolution?
Well, I'm a product person, right? So if you start with the product, imagine a system whereby anywhere you are in the city, within 10 minutes, a vehicle can come pick you up and drop you off anywhere you want to go, right? So that is an attractive proposition. You know exactly the experience you'll have, what vehicle will show up, how the vehicle will drive. So it is attractive. In that sense, it has a place in the spectrum of options that's available in a city. And it's always a bad idea to design a product based on your own experience, but I have two young teenagers, and they rely on public transportation anytime they can.
Most of the time.
Yeah, but when that's not available to them, I would love to have an autonomous vehicle pick them up, as opposed to them choosing, alternative options or picking it up myself. So I think it's about adding to the options of mobility, of access to mobility to more people, more flexibly, and therefore I believe there's a bright future for adding that to the mix of mobility solutions available to cities.
And do you see this as the future as well? So, do you think this could be part of the future mobility, and we need to embrace those technologies for more sustainable transport in Europe?
Yes, of course. I think it's really a great opportunity to put the autonomous vehicle in the way forward for mobility and to shape the future of the urban environment. But I see also opportunity, for example, for driving by night because of lack of workforces in the cities. Also opportunities to the last miles. And
yes, because we see that public transport can be the backbone of mobility, like a rail network can be very efficient.
yes.
The problem is first and last mile. We need to bring passengers to those stations, so you see opportunities, and you mentioned also the shortage of drivers that we have in Belgium, in the south and the north of Belgium, so you see there's a potential. But at the same time, do you see some risk when implementing self-driving technology?
Yes, and I think we all know the risk. The risk they are linked to the technology exists right now in USA and in China. Those risks are very, very known. But I think the main risk here in Belgium and in Europe is social acceptance. Once we see at San Francisco that such trips can turn some skeptics into believers, but then when I come back, yes, it's also.
So it's not easy to begin with autonomous mobility because we need to have the first step. So what would be the recommendations for you for cities, regions, countries who want to embrace that technology?
Naturally, there are many recommendations to do to address to countries of our city, like cybersecurity, data protection, social acceptance, test pilot projects. But I think we can take two main axes to begin, and these axes are linked to the experimentation and the really principle seeing to believing.
So we need to accelerate in the development of pilot projects and really test things like they've done. I mean, you had the support of the states of Arizona, for example. I mean, there was some people believing that something could be done. Could you come back on the story of those people supporting autonomous mobility first in Arizona, and then we've seen it partly in California?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it does take champions to get things going because it is an unknown the first time you do it, and so we were lucky to have these champions in Austin as well, very much at the beginning. I think now that we're a little bit more mature, we had an interesting approach in Los Angeles, for instance, where we took what we call the tours. So we bring a few cars in certain neighborhoods, and we show everyday citizens what it would be like, and it's a little bit of a game, right? Because you get a pass, you have a code to ride, and it's exactly like you said. It's once you experience it, it takes a little bit of the mystery out of it. And but I also want to acknowledge that we're very much at the beginning of it all, right? So the service we have right now is something people understand. You pick up it's a taxi that picks you up, but the technology can be applied in many other environments and many other ways of getting around. So that's the exciting part. We're really at the beginning. We're all learning together. And I very much agree with you that it's important to start, to take the first step, because otherwise you don't learn. And I think there's a lot of competence available in Europe and in Belgium, and that competence needs to be exposed to practice and experience.
And you insisted on the fact that Waymo has been partnering with the authorities for the regulation, but is Waymo ready to partner with public transport authorities? I mean, you're a technology provider. Do you think that in the future it's going to be embedded in public transport services?
Yeah, but as you say, our company Waymo is the core competence is the technology, building again the world's most trusted driver. Exactly.
Good driver.
I believe that we can partner with people who are excellent in the other parts that are required to provide a mobility service. that could be private sector companies or public sector companies. In particular, public transportation agencies have a unique advantage, right? They already have much of the installed infrastructure, right? They have depots, they have charging stations, they know how to clean vehicles, they know how to do customer service. And of course, they have often 50 or 100 years of experience what it takes to give people access to mobility in a city. So they have an enormous wealth of competence. And so partnering there, I think, would end up in a superior product. Our partnership strategy is already bearing fruit or reflected in some of the actions we've taken in Phoenix, where we're partnering with Uber, both for rides and food delivery. That's again a private sector example, but I believe there's plenty of innovative public transport agencies that are looking into how to use our technology and revolutionize their own product.
So the transport of the future maybe should be more efficient, because we need to meet those sustainability targets. The risk is that we change car drivers by passengers driven by a robot, but people are still sitting alone in their car. So how can we work with all parties to make this, to avoid this maybe?
Yes, it will be ridiculous if we remove the particular vehicles to a robotaxi of individual vehicles. Naturally, what we have to do is to convince people to share this vehicle or to use these types of vehicle on another way than now, and these ways are not now at this moment for the great public. Thus, I think it's important that the public see what are we doing with autonomous vehicle, what are the possible utilization of those type of vehicle, and also not targeted only on robotaxi, but also in shared transportation. And yes, what's important to say is that the traffic management in the city in a urban environment, the mindset must be changed.
But somehow I have the impression there's no big paradigm shift. Okay, there's a technological breakthrough, but we need to do the same thing as we've planned before, like having more people on board of cars, trying to give priorities to public transport, or what we will call shared transport, because maybe it's not public, but it's shared and we have more people on board. Do you have some regions or cities in the US also already thinking about prioritizing autonomous mobility if it's shared?
I mean, shared what we call ride pooling, right, is very attractive economically, right? It allows to, of course, share the cost also, in addition to being potentially better for the environment. I think it's part of the learning experience, but this will happen. Mm-hmm. It's not a great place to start, because there's this behavior, like the people's behavior need to change, right? Are you willing to share your car with someone? Do you right now one of the selling points, I'd say, of being in a Waymo car is the privacy, right? And so when that's something that you need to consider when you think of pooling. But yeah, we talked about our next generation vehicle that is really more optimized for sharing. It's easier to get in and out. It's easier it's larger, so it's easier to share with other parties. But yeah, I think it's part of the learning experience. I do want to point out that there's one difference. Even if people ride on their own, you could still win in aggregate, because you can make centralized decisions. So, for instance, you can say, what we did right now, our vehicle is a battery electric vehicle. So that is a choice. The energy that we purchase to fuel these battery electric vehicles, we can make the choice which type of energy it is. So you can still make green decisions and environmentally advantageous decisions, even when you do a pure one-to-one replacement. But of course, it has a multiplication factor if you add sharing to the mix.
From our discussion, we may say we are at a tipping point. This is clear, technology is mature. Some people have experimented full self-driving technology on a day-to-day basis. But what comes next, especially for Europe? So, Cedric, what would be your main recommendation if we want to move forward in the European countries?
So the good news is that the regulatory agencies, consumer activists, everyday citizens or future riders, we all share the same goals, right? So safer roads and better access to mobility. In order to realize those goals in Europe, we need I mean companies like Waymo need a solid legal framework, a regulatory grounding that allows us to make the type of investments that allow deployment of a service at commercial scale. So I would say that would be my main takeaway is if you don't have that framework, if you don't have that legal stability, it will take a very long time and Europe will fall behind.
So for you, regulation is key, but at the same time, we see a lot of confusion because we're talking about self-driving technologies, but some people can have this technology on board of their own vehicle, which is completely different than the case of Waymo when you're offering a service, not a technology. Emmanuel, what would be your main recommendation for the future of autonomous driving in Europe?
Well, about this great confusions in the citizen, my main recommendation will be initiating a public debate, a great public debate, especially to make the lights, to highlight those confusions, and how to do that by organizing a public forum, town halls forum, and also to create real-life testing and open testing to citizens. It's important to pulse what's the comprehension of our citizens of those technological questions, and it is also important to give the opportunity to the public and the great public to ask the experts on controlled environment, and yes, I believe that
such a debate is needed, absolutely needed, and we need to raise those questions.
Yes, and listening to people can also transform our approach, or adapt our approach to make the future of the mobility possible, naturally.
Thank you very much for this very open and transparent discussion. So thank you for watching the first Virtual City Talk. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel because we have lots of other innovative topics coming in the coming months. So thank you for watching. Have a great day.